Hello there, amazing viewers and subscribers, and welcome to a brand new amazing Doctor Who kind of a topic video for today. And for this video I am diving into the history of the Master. Now, this video was requested to me by James, who is a fellow subscriber to my YouTube channel, and of course he basically sent me a message on Instagram asking if I can do a video on the Master. So of course, for this, I've kind of dived through a lot of stuff to try and get a load of background stuff for this. I tried TARDIS Wikipedia, and of course I found stuff out in between comics and Big Finish. I was going to include the comics, but I'm not going to because it's very wibbly wobbly if I was going to include the comics, because the Master basically regenerated into a child and fought alongside the War Doctor in the comic. And I don't know what comic it's called. I've literally found this on Doctor Who Wikipedia when I've tried to find more information out about the Master, but I'm not going to include it. I'm literally just going to say that bit. So for this video, I'm literally going to talk about the incarnations of the Master that we see from TV and here in Big Finish. Now, I'm going to buy the main universe Masters, so no Unbound Masters like Mark Gatiss' Master and a few other Masters from the Unbound series. I haven't listened to any of them, but I'm going to go by for all the Masters and really through our main universe of the Master. And this is going to be very complicated, really. And this is from what I found out, and I've written all my notes out about it, because I actually did try to, I was going to do this video last week, but I needed to find a bit more information out, so I did a load of studying for this video. So anyway, let's dive in. The first incarnation of Master, what we actually see is as a child on Gallifrey, as the time was taken to look into the untempered Skiven. And of course, this is a flashback from, as we all know, The Sounds of the Drums in 2007 in Series 3. And the child is played by William Hughes, which is absolutely good. I think we could have had a bit more from this Master in a more of a type of a background sort of thing. But the fact that we kind of had like a little flashback sequence with William Hughes looking into the untempered Skiven and basically getting the drum beat of a Time Lord, aka the drums in his head. But this version of the Master, William Hughes' Master, does kind of grow up into James Dolphin's Master. Now, some people don't really like James Dolphin because of something that went on through Twitter a couple of years ago, but I'm going to include him because he still plays an incarnation of the Master, and of course he's still an actual incarnation of the Master, so really he is still the first incarnation of the Master, because he's literally just took over the role from the child, William Hughes. So really, this version of the Master battles against the first, second and seventh Doctors in Big Finish. Now, after the Doctor kind of stole the TARDIS and went away from Gallifrey, the Master stole his TARDIS to go and look for the Doctor, but he ends up having quite a few adventures and not encounter the Doctor until a bit later on in his lifetime. But really, James Dolphin's performance, from what I've listened to little clips on YouTube, he actually sounds quite good as the Master, and I need to dive into more of his background as the Master really through Big Finish, because he's in the very first of the box set of the first Doctor Adventures. He's done an audio with Freezer Hines, where Freezer Hines is voicing Patrick Troughton's Doctor, and he's even done an audio with Sylvester McCoy during the Psychic Circus, when the Doctor goes back to the Psychic Circus. So I still need to go back and listen to them, but they actually do sound quite good, and I really do like James Dolphy with basically David Bradley, because it really kind of gives that Doctor Master type feel. Then, of course, we do miss the Master's 2nd to 11th incarnations. So you're probably wondering why 2nd to 11th incarnations, because it's timey-wimey. We don't really know anything about these previous Masters. So, then jumping into the 12th incarnation of the Master, played by Roger Delgado. Now, Roger Delgado, he is the original Master that we see on screen, and of course he has some fantastic battles with the 3rd Doctor. And I really do quite enjoy Roger Delgado's performance as this version of the Master, because he's very brilliant. The way he literally hypnotizes people. He goes, "I am the Master, and you will obey me. You will obey me." And the way they look into his eyes, and you kind of got that creepy music as well, which is done so brilliant. Roger's performance is absolutely brilliant, and to me, he is one of the best versions of the Master. But unfortunately, Roger Delgado passed away back in 1973, just after season 10 aired. So with him, as he died, the character of the Master didn't really return until a couple of seasons later with the 4th Doctor with a brand new actor. But it isn't actually the end for Delgado's Master, because the Delgado's Master does make an appearance in a comic against the 12th Doctor, but it actually leads the Master to regenerate at the end of that battle with the 12th Doctor, and he regenerates, and we see the start of the regeneration from, Roger Delgado. Then, of course, we are now into the 13th incarnations of the Master, played by quite a few actors. They're literally played by Peter Pratt, Geoffrey Beevers, Anthony Ainley, Gordon Temple, and of course Eric Roberts. So this Master is decaying. This is the Master in his decaying form before he jumps into bodies and bodies and bodies. Now, the reason I say this is an actual thing, because in a Big Finish audio, this version of the Master, before he became in his decaying state, he actually come across Susan in pre-Dalek battle in the Dalek version of Earth. And then, of course, Susan basically takes the Master's tissue manipulator and she shoots him with it. But because the Master's on his last life, it basically turns him into a decaying form. And then, of course, he goes to a planet where he's picked up by Chancellor Goff and taken back to the High Council of the Time Lords. And, of course, trying to plot the murder of the High Council and basically trying to frame the Doctor at the same point in his 4th incarnation. But apart from that version of the Master, played by Peter Pratt, he literally gets in the TARDIS and escapes. The next time we actually see the Master is played by Geoffrey Beevers in The Keeper of Traken. And he's there trying to use the Traken's power, so he can literally use the Source so he can try and renew himself and to regenerate. A bit like how Peter Pratt's Master tried to use the Eye of Harmony to renew himself, but he tries it with the Source, but the fact, because Nyssa and Adric kind of interfere, and of course, just before the Master could jump into the Doctor's body, things go wrong inside the Master's second TARDIS, aka the Malka. And luckily for us, he has a backup TARDIS as an antique clock, which is absolutely brilliant, because the Master does escape and holds Tremas by holding onto the button and basically morphs into Tremas's body. And then, of course, that's basically for Anthony Ainley's version, but apparently Anthony Ainley's version does fail the Master a bit later on, because during the Master using Anthony Ainley's body, it's literally the fact that this is the Master that met all 7 incarnations of the Doctor. And then, of course, he dies. He dies and he has to go back into his old decaying form. And then he jumps into another body, played by Gordon Temple in the TV movie. But before he jumps from Tremas's body into Gordon Temple's characters, before he becomes the Master body, this version of the Master, the Decaying Master, kind of has quite a few more adventures, especially like messing around with time and space and basically having to try and kill all of the first 8 Doctors in Light at the End. And then after that point, he does actually go and battle against the 4th Doctor quite a few times, and as well as battling against the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th Doctors, before he leads on to taking over Gordon Temple's body and leading into basically that version of the Master being put on trial by the Daleks, executed and exterminated. And of course, while he's there on Skaro, he eats a metamorphic worm, and that's where the Master stores his evil essence. And when the TARDIS basically makes a crash landing on Earth 1999 in the TV movie, that takes over the body of a paramedic named Bruce. And then, of course, Bruce's body is also failing the Master at this point. So the Master's got a plan to use the Eye of Harmony to steal the Doctor's remaining regenerations. And that really just falls flat for the Master, and he does fall into the Eye of Harmony. And that's where basically the Master ends up staying, because even though Eric Roberts has returned as the Master, at some point the Master's essence ends up going into the Time Vortex. And that's really the end for the Master. But not really, because then, of course, during the Time War, the Time Lords kind of started to resurrect the Master and other Time Lords like Rassilon. And then, of course, brings us to a whole new regeneration cycle for the Master. And it's also called the Resurrection Master Regeneration Cycle. Like I call it, the Resurrection Master Cycle, Regeneration Cycle. So this resurrected Master has quite a few new incarnations, and I'm going to say about them and what I think of them as well. So really, of course, after the Master is resurrected, he gets a brand new body, and that is, of course, played by Alex McQueen as the 14th Master, because this is the Master in a new regeneration cycle where Peter Pratt and Jeffrey Beavers, they both play the same incarnation, but they're just kind of jumped into Trimus's body and Gordon Temple's body, and basically Eric Roberts' body, and that's still part of the 13th regeneration at the end of that original cycle for the Master. So he is now being resurrected by, and of course Alex McQueen gives us a fantastic performance as this version of the Master, as he battles against mainly the 6th, 7th and 8th Doctors. But not much is known what happens to this Master, because from what I've listened to, it kind of ends on the story for him in Dark Eyes, and he doesn't really return. And I would like to see the return of Alex McQueen as the Master at some point, because he's absolutely brilliant, and he's my favourite Big Finish Master. Absolutely brilliant. I really love his performance. So then Alex McQueen somehow does regenerate into a child in the comics to basically fight alongside the War Doctor, played by John Hurt, which unfortunately I don't own the comics, so I don't know anything about it, but apart from these pictures. And then, of course, that child version of the Master ends up regenerating into the War Master, played by Derek Jacobi, or the Yana Master. And this is where basically we come into New Who, because this is the Master during the Time War that kind of interferes, plays around with time, trying to stop the Time War, makes it badly wrong, and of course the Dalek Emperor takes over the Time Lord Crucifor. And of course he ends up running to the end of the universe and turns himself human, back into he turns himself into a human child, with all his memories stored inside the fob watch, and basically the 10th Doctor stumbles across him. But this is where it gets very, very timey-wimey, because the 10th Doctor does in fact encounter this version of the Master again in the 7th box set of the War Master series, which I haven't really listened to, but I've listened to a few clips, and it's absolutely brilliant, because the Master's there trying to call the Doctor, and of course he's trying to call the War Doctor, but it's gone wrong in the time vortex, and it kind of pulls the 10th Doctor out from his own future timeline into the Time War, which is absolutely brilliant. And David Tennant gives a good performance in the audio from what I've listened to. I don't own it, but I have listened to a few clips on YouTube. And then, of course, when the 10th Doctor does stumble across him at the end of the universe, and of course he does end up opening the fob watch because he gets his memories back because of echoes between the Daleks and the TARDIS and the Time Lords and all that Yana was listening to, and basically makes the Master, Yana open the fob watch, and the Master gets his consciousness back. And this is kind of the Master's third body in his second regeneration cycle, or the resurrected cycle. Yana is absolutely brilliant as the Master. I quite enjoy Professor Yana, and Derek Jacobi is amazing. He's more amazing in Big Finish than he was on screen, but on screen he did play the human for a while before becoming the Master. And then, of course, this version of the Master is shot by Chanzo, and he does go into regenerate into his next incarnation, played by John Sim, who is now the 4th incarnation of the resurrected Master cycle. John Sim's Master is absolutely brilliant. I do quite like him in Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, and I actually do like him in One Nothing Time and The Doctor Falls. I just don't really care for him in The End of Time. But this version of the Master meets two versions of the Doctor. He meets the 10th Doctor twice, and he ends up meeting the Doctor in his 12th incarnation. And then, of course, he basically has a bit of a kind of a good live stream, because apparently after he gets shot and resurrected again, so really the Master kind of gets resurrected twice in this new regeneration cycle, because he gets shot by his wife, then he gets resurrected, and then, of course, he ends up going back to Gallifrey during the Time War, and he's basically fixed of his little condition, and he goes back to the universe and finds himself on a Mondasian spaceship that's stuck by a black hole, and he kind of blows up the dematerialization circuit. And then, of course, that's when he ends up meeting his future self, Missy. And really, he ends up stabbing Missy, and Missy ends up shooting Missy with the sonic laser, and his future self ends up stabbing him in the back, making him to go and regenerate. But we do not know who's next after John Sim, because it's very, very complicated, because as Missy put it herself, it's a very hazy regeneration. I can't remember. And he goes, "You mean I turn into a woman and I don't even remember it?" But I'm going to go to the fact that basically Michelle Gomez is the next version of the Master after John Sim, because of Sastra One. And there's some stuff that Sastra One's Master, I think, comes after Missy, even though he does go insane and stuff. But I have got a little bit of a theory for that. So Missy, aka Michelle Gomez, is the next incarnation of the Master in this new resurrected regeneration cycle. And really, Missy ends up making quite a few troubles for the 12th Doctor, like converting the dead humans into Cybermen, and of course, basically going to Skara with him, and then being trapped in the vault because the Doctor's trying to turn her good, and she gets a bit of a good redemption arc in series 10, and then she ends up going kind of back into her old ways when she meets up with John Sims' Master, and then of course that's it, she's dead, or is she? Because after the Master kind of kills her with his sonic laser, he goes, don't try to regenerate. I made sure you can't, but I can guarantee that Missy does keep trying to regenerate, and she regenerates into Sacha Dhawan's version of the Master. Sacha Dhawan's Master, I think he's after Missy because he goes to Gallifrey because he could be angry at the fact that the Doctor has left him on the Mondasian ship. Now, you could be wondering, what about his hood of the TARDIS? Well, he has a spare dematerialization circuit on him. He could easily go and use Cybertech to build himself a new TARDIS, which is the Hut. And he goes to Gallifrey and messes around with the Matrix, finds out really that his friend, aka the Doctor, who is another Time Lord who believes is a very special Time Lord and the Timeless Child, which really makes him go insane and kill every single Time Lord. But I still think some Time Lords have escaped from that. I really do think he hasn't killed all of the Time Lords. I just think he's killed some of them, but he just thinks he's killed all of them, which he probably hasn't. And then, of course, he battles against the 13th Doctor quite a few times. He does meet a past incarnation of the Doctor, why he's going into working for MI6, MI7, something like that. Because he ends up killing the original O and basically takes his place. And, of course, he meets a past incarnation of the Doctor there. And then he hides out in the outback. And then, of course, comes across the 13th Doctor. And really, the whole Timeless Child and turning dead Time Lords into Cybermasters could be okay. I don't know what to actually think about it fully. I need to rewatch that. And I do need to rewatch Power of the Doctor. But the Master, is he dead or is he not dead? Because he does kind of get connected up to the Cyberium, and it's by the time we see him in the Power of the Doctor, he looks like it's killing him as Rasputin, as he's dressed as Rasputin, disguised himself as Rasputin. He's basically dying because he doesn't look right because of the Cyberium, which is why I think he tries to do the forced regeneration from the Doctor, and the Doctor ends up going to basically, before she ends up going over to join her other selves, but she is joined by past selves, aka the Guardians of the Edge of Regeneration. I think that's, I don't know what they're actually called. I'm just going to call them that. And then, of course, basically the Master does fail, goes back into his old body, and the fact that his body is actually dying because of the Cyberium, he does try to kill the 13th Doctor, and he does succeed, but that's really it for the Master, really, apart from the kind of mention that he's now inside the Toymaker's tooth, where basically the Master was dying and the Toymaker offered to give him a game so he can help him, and the Master basically failed at the game and became trapped in the gold tooth, which got picked up at the end of the Giggle. So that is basically everything that I know from the past, their Master's history. It's very long, it's very complicated, it's very timey-wimey. I'm hoping this video does try and help some people about the Master. For me, I would say for the Master, if you watch Classico, really, where he's introduced by Roger Delgado, all the way down to Anthony Ainley / Eric Roberts, you probably enjoy that one, because going into New Who, it's very complicated because you got literally Derek Jacobi and John Sim, but nobody knows. I'm going by the suspension that really Michelle Gomez is after John Sims' Master and Sacha Dhawan is after Michelle Gomez. That's the way how I'm going to do it, the way it's gone through the TV side for series 8, 9, 10, 12 and 13. And that's the way I'm going to do it. So yeah, let me know in the comments, who is your favourite Master? Is it Roger Delgado? Is it Peter Pratt? Is it Geoffrey Beevers? Is it Anthony Ainley, Eric Roberts, Derek Jacobi? Is it John Sim, Michelle Gomez, or Sacha Dhawan? Or is it ones from Big Finish, like, basically kind of like James Dolphy? I haven't listened to him, so I'm really looking forward to diving into his stuff as the Master. And I really do quite enjoy Alex McQueen's Master. But it's very timely-wimey and very complicated. So, yeah, I am sorry about this video being a bit long. But the Master has got a very big history in Doctor Who. So join me tomorrow where I will be doing my series of the Doctor Who DVD Disputation series. And I'm on the next part, which is season 13. As I was doing that before Christmas and the 60th anniversary as well. So I will restart that tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. Thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share. And just remember not to get hypnotized by the Master.